Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video lecture. After the completion of chapter 2, which consisted of the theory of demand, the theory of consumer behavior, and the theory of supply, let us move on to another very important technical chapter that is related to the theory of production and theory of cost. And this is divided into two units. First unit discusses about the theory of production, and second unit will discuss about the theory of cost, which we will come to it later. But today let us focus on what is this theory of production. Of course, the theory of production is something yet to be discussed, but what does this unit expects us to learn? What are the learning outcomes of this unit? At the end of this unit, we should be able to define what is production and what is the production function, and also what are the characteristics related to various factors of production. As we know, there are many factors of production like land, labor, capital, organization, and what are those characteristics of those factors of production we will discuss in this chapter, and also distinguish between short run and long run production functions. So this is the real technical aspect related to the production theory. But before reaching there, we just should understand, first of all, the concept of production, and also what are different factors of production and what are their characteristics. Then the real production theory starts, which has broadly two types of theories. One is the law of diminishing returns and the law of returns to scale. And in the process, we will use certain graphs also called as isoquant and isocost curves. Isoquant means same quantity. Isocost means same cost. So iso utility means same utility. So indifference curves, when we discussed in the theory of consumer behavior, or iso utility curves, because along that curve, anywhere the utility of the consumer is same. So whenever the word iso is used, that is a generic word, just like the word marginal. Marginal means 1 plus, iso means same. So these have to be also studied as part of this unit of chapter 3. And this is the summary of this chapter, or we can say overview of this chapter, which consists of both the theories of production as well as cost. And definitely we will discuss each of these items one by one. The theory of production is in unit 1 and the theory of cost is in unit 2. But one point to be always kept in mind, because this is one of the important aspects throughout this chapter, both the units, we have to be very clear on what are we talking about. Whenever we talk about production, we are talking about quantities. Whenever we are talking about cost, we are talking about money. So please keep that in mind. When we talk about production, we are not talking about the cost impacts of that. Of course, the theory of production itself will have an impact on the theory of cost, no doubt about it. It is going to happen. But we should understand and distinguish very clearly whenever a particular context is drawn from a question. Are we talking about quantities or are we talking about money? Has to be clear, first of all. Any number in the world is not money. That is the biggest mistake most of the students, particularly CA students, make. So don't do that mistake. Quantities are also numbers. Money is also numbers. But what is the number referring that we are referring in a question? We should be very clear about it. So that is the first point we can say before we enter into this chapter itself. But of course, this unit 1 focuses mostly on the factors of production, as we have just now discussed, and most of the factors of production as a general list of factors of production, we know them, that is land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, you can call it, organization, you can call it. That is 4 factors of production. And production function, which is the theory of production, actually the technical aspect, has 2 various aspects within that. One is short-run theories, the other one is long-run theories. The short-run theories are called as the law of variable proportions. We will come to that. We will discuss that. And the long-run theory is called as the law of returns to scale. And when we are talking about the returns to scale, we should also understand economies and diseconomies of scale. All these aspects we will discuss in this particular chapter. So on a broader basis, if you want to classify this unit 1, first discussion is about knowing what is production and what are factors of production and what is the nature of various factors of production, what are the characteristics of factors of production. Once we know that, we enter into the real theory of production. The real theory of production can be studied in 2 timelines. One is the short-run theories and other one is a long-run theory. Short-run theory is also called as the law of variable proportions. What is that? We will come to it. Just know the name now. Law of variable proportions. Long-run theory is also called as the law of returns to scale, which further tells us what could be the economies and diseconomies of scale. That's it. That is unit 1 of chapter 3. The same type of classification will extend to the cost theories also. They also are classified into long run and short run. And costs can be also classified as fixed cost, variable cost. We will discuss all those things in the cost theory. Various cost concepts we will discuss. The classification of fixed, variable and semi-variable, all those aspects we will discuss in the unit 2 of chapter 3. We'll come to that later, but all the cost things are related to money. Production things are all related to quantities. That has to be kept in mind when we talk about theories. When we just talk about generally what is production, what is land, what is labor, so many general items are there before we actually enter into the theory of production. So let us start with the understanding of what is the meaning of production first of all. What does production mean? Of course, there are normally misconceived words which are considered to be production means manufacturing something tangible. That's what we normally mean colloquially. But is that what production in economics also? That is where we have to be definitely focusing on. It is not what we think only. Of course, that is also production. Manufacturing an article or a thing is also a production. But is that only production? No. So the simple point is, production includes manufacturing of goods also, rendering of services also. That is the first point to note. When a doctor treats his patient, that is also a production. It is hard to digest that. Sir, how can it be production? What is he producing? He is producing his service. We can't see that. No problem. Still it is production. So nobody said that production has to be tangible. Production is equal to manufacturing. That first of all, misconception should not be there. So production includes manufacturing, but production is not just manufacturing. When we use the word production in economics, we are talking about both goods as well as services. Of course, for any organization, what is their general objective? Everybody wants to manufacture or produce goods or services, and they want to sell them at profit, naturally. And they attain such profitability by having a lower cost. That is what their objective will be. And so naturally, for any organization, production is the core area of operations. Actually, in the modern terminology, not in economics. In economics, we still call it production only. So in modern terminology, in the actual organizations, this is sometimes called as operations. So operations means not doctor operations. Whatever the core activity of the organization is, that's what is operations. That is operations. So production we can understand as operations also. However, that is not what we use in economics. That is a real life word used in corporates. Then what is production? What is operations for any organization? That depends upon the organization. For a hospital, treating the patients is operations, not just operating theater. For an educational institution, teaching the students is operations. For a manufacturing industry, manufacturing the commodities, goods is operations. For an airlines industry, taking the passengers from one place to another place through aircraft is operations. Whatever the core activity of that organization is, that's what we call it operation, and that is what is production, simply speaking. Of course, there will be so many support functions to the production. There will be finance function, there will be information technology, software which will support production, there will be human resources, HR that is called popularly. Like that, many functions will be there, many departments will be there. Purchase department, stores department, many departments will be there in the organizations depending upon what is the size of the organization. But core is what? Always operations. Core is operations. That's what we can understand as the production of whatever the production of that organization is. That is its core operations. We can understand in that lines. For example, for a chartered accountancy firm, for an audit firm, what is operations? What is production? Are they producing something? No, they are not producing anything. Manufacturing, if you want to see anything tangibly there, you cannot see. But is there production from economics point of view? Yes, there is. And what is their operations, core operations? To provide services to the clients. They may provide audit services, they may provide consultancy services, legal services, or tax services. Like that, many kinds of services the chartered accountants provide to the clients. Whatever those services they provide to the clients, that is their core operations. That's what we can call production. So the point is, core point is here to note production. We should not have our brain limited to the thought of production is equal to manufacturing. Whenever we hear the word production, our scope of thought process should be wide, not narrow. And for any organization, naturally, because this is the core of the organization, that will be the major concern or the principal concern for the organizations to achieve the optimum efficiency in the production naturally by minimizing the cost of production. So these are the two chapters we are talking about. The first chapter or first unit talks about optimizing the efficiency in the production process. Don't think we are going to optimize something. We are only going to know some theories about it. Actually, production is a huge subject, and that is the job of engineers actually, not even chartered accountants. Forget about foundation students. So really the operations of any organization, they will happen, they will be done by real professionals who are good in their field. For example, airlines will be actually operated by the pilots. We know that airlines operations is taking passengers from one place to another place does not make us pilots. So some factory which manufactures cement, for that there should be somebody who knows how to manufacture cement. Some engineer will be there, some chemical engineer, some mechanical engineer, electrical engineers, all of them put together will work towards the actual production process on the ground. And we should not be also under a misconception that we are going to be involved in the production just by using the word production 100 times in this chapter. No, we are only knowing the theories of production, how it happens, an overall general overview of how production happens. Not that we are going to know how cement is manufactured, how cloths are stitched, not like that. So that is all technical in the sense engineering subject, nothing to do with economics, nothing to do with chartered accountancy at all. But do we know that every organization tries to optimize the efficiency? Yes, definitely. Every organization tries to minimize their cost of production? Yes, definitely. That's all. How to do that? That's a big thing. That's what organizations will do. People really on the ground who work, they will do. We are only reading about them, that they will do. they understand the difference. So the performance of an economy is also judged by its level of production. Naturally, when we say GDP, though it is a macroeconomic concept, gross domestic product is nothing but the value of all the goods and services produced by all the organizations, individuals in a year in the particular country. Like for example, India's GDP is so and so. If we say $3 trillion, it is approximately. If we say that, it means the value of all the goods and services produced in 1 year in India is equivalent to approximately $3 trillion. Like that. Like that. Even production is very important in understanding the performance of economy. So whether a particular country is rich or poor generally depends upon what? General perception. Once again, you cannot always brand a country as rich or poor. These are general perceptions, general thought. This is all, nothing technical. Understand the difference. So general thoughts can always have differences of opinions. Not necessarily that whatever is given printed in the textbook is exactly the science. No, it is a thought. That's all. So, but in general, do we say countries like USA are having a lot of resources, and do we call USA a rich country or not? Generally, yes, definitely yes. When compared with the United States of America, relatively, India is a poor country or not, country-wise? Definitely yes. Why do we do that? What is the basis? What is the benchmark? Just because America has some more rich people than India has more rich people? No. It's not about the people there. It's about the production, value of the goods and services produced. That is what makes one country supposed to be rich and one country supposed to be poor. So just for understanding the importance of production as a concept, you can even understand the entire international equations of what is the state of economy of any country. Also, ultimately, when you actually go down to the realities, it will depend upon its production only. So that much important the production is all about. Okay, fine. Production is important, we know that. But normally what we use, the production in which context we use? We say making something is what is production normally. But is it correct in economics? Not necessarily, only. For example, growing of wheat, rice or any other agricultural product, is it production? Yes, we consider that as production. Let us say manufacturing of cement, radio sets, wool, machinery or any other industrial products, is it production? Definitely yes, because we can see them. It is easy to tell. Okay, cement manufactured, yes, it is production. Some cloths manufactured, it is production. Like that we can say. Cars manufactured, it is production, because they are visible. But is it what exactly production? Even in economics? Is that also same exactly even in economics? Answer is no. In economics, the word production is used in a wider sense to denote the process by which people, man means persons, utilize resources, like once again, man, material, capital, time, etc., and working upon them to transform them into commodities. Simply speaking, that's what production is considered as in economics. But once again, commodities, don't think only goods. That includes services also, or even services to make them satisfy the human wants. Both of them are considered as production. To sum it up simply, the process of transforming certain things into better things or sellable things as commodities, or the process of providing services so as to satisfy the human wants, is what is called as production. Simply, which converts inputs into outputs, or which are capable of satisfying human wants, is what we can call as production. So that is an economic activity. Once again, economic activity which converts inputs into output. So naturally one more question comes, sir, what is this economic activity? Is every activity an economic activity? Once again, answer is no. Let us say atta is converted into chapati. Yes, that is an activity for sure. If your mother is doing that, is it also an economic activity? From economics perspective, answer is no. It is not. We like it or not, we agree with it or not. From economics perspective, economic activity is only that where there is an exchange value, not just use value. So always we have to keep that in mind, which we discussed earlier also, the importance of these two words in economics. Always, these are core words. What are those things? One is use value and the other one is exchange value. What can we call as economic activity that generates exchange value is only what can be called as economic activity. What generates only use value cannot be called as economic activity. That is a point to be noted here. So use value and exchange value both will be there for any commodity, but just having use value is not an economic activity, but creating an exchange value is an economic activity. But if you look at the essence of them, the activity could be same. The process of converting atta into chapati is same, whether it is done at home or whether it is done at a restaurant. Process is same. Of course, people doing are different, but that is not what makes them different. What makes them different is the chapati which is made in the restaurant has exchange value, but of course that also has use value. Everything that has exchange value will also have use value. We are not talking about that. But the chapati that is made by the mother at home is having only use value. It doesn't have exchange value because you don't pay her to buy that chapati in order to eat. So whenever we say economic activity, we have to understand that very clearly. Economic activity is that which creates not only use value but also exchange value. Use value is of not importance in economics. Exchange value matters. But in life, what matters definitely, that is our choice. Sometimes some people are more fascinated towards exchange value. Some people are more fascinated towards use value. There will be always all kinds of people. For example, if a pen is costing 80,000 rupees, some person might be very proud in having that pen in his pocket. That is exchange value which he is happy about. But there might be another person who might think anyway pen is a pen, even 2 rupees pen also will write same way. It is not going to add any value actually for writing purposes. So I will use a 2 rupees pen. It doesn't make any difference for that person. So maybe they are focused on use value. So the real life approach of people towards use values and exchange values is completely personal. That has nothing to do with economics. But what about economics? It thinks that economic activity is that activity which converts the input into output, and that output has exchange value. Very important point here to be noted. So, for example, making of cloth by an industrial worker, is it an economic activity? Yes, because it is converting cotton into cloth or wool into cloth. Same way, the service of a retailer, let us say, who delivers to the consumers. Is it production? Amazon is not actually manufacturing anything. Mostly it is just delivering the commodities, picking up from the manufacturers and sending to the customers like us. What Amazon is doing, is it also production? In economics, yes sir, it is also production. Why? Because that is a service. And that service is satisfying some want of some people enough. That is creating some value there. And that value is what is created by the economic activity. It could be manufacturing or it could be service also. Anything is okay. Either of them is considered as production. So the work of doctors, lawyers, teachers, actors, dancers, etc., everything is production in economics. So don't be under a narrow sense of production means manufacturing. No. The essence of this entire paragraph in one line is production means an economic activity which should generate an exchange value for an output where that activity has converted the inputs into outputs. And production includes the manufacturing of goods also and rendering of services also. That's it. That's the meaning of production. Okay, this can be defined by different people in different ways. Definitions are only for, I would say, games of the words. Nothing much important than understanding the essence. Yeah, because some are English people, they will play with the words and they try to bring in as much meaning as possible in a shorter sentence with more words. Like that they do. So what is production? Simple. It is the organized activity of transforming the resources into finished products. And what are the finished products? They could be in the form of goods and services. And the objective of production is to satisfy the demand of such transformed resources. These words you have to understand clearly. Resources means what here? What are we talking about? You can call them as factors of production, that is resources. You call them inputs, that is resources. So resources is that. Once the resources get transformed, what they will become? They become goods, they become services, they become commodities, they can be sold, they become output. Those are the finished products. After getting transformed, the same resources will become finished product. Sugar cane is a resource. Sugar is the finished product. Sugar cane automatically will not become sugar. A lot of process is there in between. That process is production. That process of converting the sugar cane into sugar is what we are talking about as production. But why any sugar factory is manufacturing sugar? Not to eat themselves. Because they want to satisfy the demand of such transformed resources, means output, in this case sugar. That is the objective of production. And the process of production is definitely an organized activity. It is not happening randomly or naturally. It is an organized activity. So once again we can understand this way. Like we all human beings eat lot of different types of grains, rice, wheat, etc. Did human beings invent them? I don't think so. It must be there in nature before also. But human beings found them somewhere and they found it tasty and they started increasing the grains. They started using them as seeds. Point is what? Without human beings' intervention also, the nature might already would have had rice and wheat. Most probably they are not. So now look at two situations where there is an open area where nobody lives, and naturally, just by the forces of nature, there was a wheat crop in some 1,000 acres of land. Nobody has actually cultivated it. Nature has given that much of wheat, just like any other crops or any other natural things. There was wheat which was in the area of 1,000 acres, which was the nature's gift, we can say. And on the other side, far from that place, there is a village which has another 1,000 acres of land where a lot of people have worked hard in order to cultivate wheat. So the question comes, is the first one also production? No, sir, it is not production. Why? Because there is no organized activity in the first case. It is a nature's gift. We cannot claim, human beings cannot claim the production of nature also as our production. We did not produce rivers, we did not produce trees, we did not produce them. Those are there. We are using them, that's all. We did not produce coal, we did not produce oil. No, we did not. But what are we doing? We have the capacity and science, technology, machinery to transform the natural resources like crude oil into petrol, diesel, tar, like that, wax, many forms. So that is what is production. It is the organized activity of transforming the resources into finished products. And those finished products, by the way, could be in the form of goods also and services also. So simply, that's what production is all about. And the next paragraph is general thing. Are we talking about creation of matter and all? Definitely not. We don't have to enter into physics. Usually, it is said that man cannot create matter or destroy matter. That is a fundamental law of science, what they say. But once again, let us not get into those discussions. After all, we are not scientists in physics or understanding the real theories of science. So I would suggest this paragraph better to be ignored. I don't agree with that, and no need to argue with that also. Matter can be created or cannot be created. Debatable. There are so many scientists who still say that can be created. They're trying, let them try. That is their job, none of our business. Our job is to understand from the point of view of economics what is production. Production is about transforming the inputs into outputs, simply speaking. That is the process. That's what production is all about. Then, while these processes are done, what does production do is it will add utility to the natural resources so that greater satisfaction can be derived from them. It will add some utility to the natural resources. So for some time, just for discussion's sake, let us agree that everything that is produced in this world basically has to come back from nature only. Whatever you are seeing, in whichever form you are seeing, you go back, where the origination started, definitely from nature. Some commodity, something, some subject in the nature only has been transformed so many times so that we have this product in our hands. Once again, I'm not talking about plastics, polymers, synthetics, which are not directly derived from nature, but those are enhanced from a small molecule in nature. As I said, that is not our area to be discussed. So let us not get into scientific things. So let us ignore those synthetic things for some time and just look around you. Everything that you look around you mostly has come from nature originally. The wooden door that you are looking at has come from nature. That was there in the form of tree earlier, which was cut, which was polished, which was shaped. Some carpenter has done some work on that. Then it was fixed here, then it became a door. The chair or anything that we are using, ultimately, if you go backwards, it will have its place from nature only. So ultimately, that's what production is all about. It is transforming the natural resources, transforming the resources into some more useful thing. The silicon, which is available even in the sand, we don't care about it, but the same silicon which is used in every chip that you are using in a computer or the mobile phone in which you are watching this video lecture, the same silicon, but that came from sand. Like this, many aspects are there where ultimately, if you go backwards, you find its root in nature only. Somewhere from nature only, this has been converted. Finally, it is in the shape where we are using it. And what the production process has done in all these phases, it has added utility to these natural resources. That's what it has done. And there are different types of utilities. Once again, don't mix this utility with the consumer's theory of utility. Words are same. We are using in a different context. I understand it is difficult sometimes to identify different words. Same word actually in different contexts. But that is what it is. That is what we have to do. If I say check, what am I talking about? How do you know? Check means which check I am talking. Am I talking about a check that I write for paying money to somebody, or am I talking about checking the value, checking the exam papers? Which check I am talking about? The word is same. Spelling may be different in British language, but in American language, both spellings are also same. Check. We'll not understand that. So we need to understand any word from its context, not from its name. Like stock. Stock. What is stock? So many names are there for, so many meanings are there. Stock can be used in the context of it being a share. That's what we call stock market. Shall we say that stock, and normally what we use in the context of inventories like opening stock, closing stock of goods for businesses, are they both same? Definitely not. Definitely not. So stock has different thing. And conceptually we have this stock concept and flow concept. Stock concept means at a particular point of time. Flow concept means during a period of time. Is that stock, this stock same? No, that is different. There is also another context where the stock word is used. Repeatedly, if you use the same thing, that is called it's a very stock thing. There also it is used. So, if we don't distinguish which place, which context we are using the word, unnecessarily it leads to confusion. So, understand each word according to its context. Contextual vocabulary is very important. Just knowing some names is not enough. Where we are using it, why we are using it, in that particular context only has to be looked at. So utility here means usefulness, not that consumer utility, theory of diminishing marginal utility. I know utility. We don't know utility. We know only the theory of diminishing marginal utility. That's all. Utility is a bigger thing. So just a name. Now what we are talking about, usefulness is created by the production process to the natural resources, so that ultimately after the goods and services are produced, they will generate a greater satisfaction to the consumers, whoever are using them. Naturally, in their raw form, nature may not have any much usefulness, but after the production process is done, after the resources are transformed, they will definitely generate greater satisfaction. That's what this means, and what kinds of utility it will generate. So let us understand different types of utility here. Once again, there is no descriptive question, but just for understanding different types of utility, how the production process generates them. First kind of utility is called as form utility. That's called as form utility. Form means the way it looks. A simple example can be easily taken. Say for example, sugarcane only. Sugarcane, how it looks, and sugar, how it looks. Is there any relationship between them? Completely different, no? Sugarcane is so hard and it is very long stick type material, and sugar is so soft and it is crystals, small crystals. The color of sugarcane is different, the color of sugar is different, completely different form. If suddenly, if let us say we don't know anything about where from sugar comes, if you show somebody these two objects, they will not believe also sugarcane is the raw material for sugar. A lot of people don't know. Of course, some of the people in big cities, I heard in some of the news surveys earlier, don't know how the rice is actually coming, where from it is coming. They are thinking it's available in the shop, so they are just going and buying it. We don't need to know that. I'm not telling everybody should know everything. But at least the things that we eat, at least the things that we daily use, to some extent we should know. Definitely when we talk about cloth, could be of any material, saying cotton. Look at cotton, how it looks, and look at cloth, how it is. Completely different form. What is the use of cotton? If somebody gives 100 kgs of cotton to us, what are we going to do with that? Nothing. What are we going to do with the 100 kgs of cotton? If that cotton is converted into a cloth, if that cloth is stitched, then we can definitely use it to wear. So that is what production creates. That is a form utility. So changing the form from one type of form to another type of form. Form means, once again, the way it looks. It is the physical characteristics, we can say. Completely transforming the physical characteristics of raw materials into something else. Simply speaking, the changing the form of a wood into table is one example, or changing the form of iron into a machine is another example. Like this, production process creates this kind of form utility. That is one of the kinds of utilities that the production process generates. That is called form utility, and that is possible because of technology, because of human civilization, where we learned from experience how to convert these natural resources into something that is better useful. Iron ore, what we are going to do with that? But that iron converted into how many things daily? You just look around, most of the things are there in front of you which are made of iron, or having some, even a nail which is made of iron. But iron ore by itself is not going to have any usefulness to us. So the process of converting that iron ore into the final product that is useful for us is production. And what it has created in this process is form utility. It has changed the way iron ore looks like, and Iron looks like, the shape is not same, the characteristics are not necessarily same, color is not same. Completely there are a lot of changes. That's what happens. It creates form utility. Means the physical characteristics it will change, and it will create some better satisfaction, better utility to the user, we can say. That's what is form utility created by production process. Second utility generated by the production process is place utility. Place utility. Fantastic this is also, because once again, if you look at iron as an example, which is there in front of us everywhere, where was this iron coming from? Do you know that? We don't know that. We cannot source that actually. But definitely it is not cultivated, or it is not just behind our backyard, right? Somewhere long place, somewhere where there were iron ore mines that was taken out, that would have been polished, processed, melted, transformed into some other form, How many states, how many districts, how many countries that has crossed, we cannot imagine also. It has done all this. And ultimately it is getting useful to us just at one place where we are sitting. How? Nature will not send directly this utility from ore to home, but who does that? Production process does that. Human being does that. So that is the utility that production process creates, place utility. Or look at the food that you eat. It is cultivated somewhere in the villages, somewhere in the agricultural lands, situated somewhere, where also you don't know exactly. But from there, it was harvested, it was then later sent to the mills, it was polished, a lot of process happened, it was packed, it was transported, it was stored, then it was sent to the shop from where we purchased, and we are just eating it casually. But all these things happened. And the place where the manufacturing happened and the place where the product is consumed are not same. That's what is place utility. That is also created by the production process. Of course, what we are doing now itself can be called as place utility, though it is not the ideal situation. This utility is not really a required utility, but still, since there is no option, we are using this. I am able to talk to you, I am able to communicate to you, you are able to hear me. And I am at some other place. We are all scattered in different places. But how is it possible that I am able to be audible to you and you are able to listen to me and understand the explanations that I am giving? How is this all possible? We are not at the same place, but still the technology has created that place utility. The internet has created that place utility. The computers I am using, the headphones that I am using, all the technique, all the equipment that I am using and you are using, both are creating place utility. So that is what production does. Production creates place utility. Simply, it takes the resources from one place and takes them to another place where they are of greater use. Iron ore is there somewhere. If it lies below the ground, what is the use of iron ore? Just like that. If you take it out, use it, melt it, completely change its shape and grade it into different grades and finally use it for different purposes, then it makes some sense. Then it is of greater use. So simply what production process, everything is production in this. Once again, don't think production means we have to create something. No, we are not talking about creation here. We are talking about transformation. Original iron ore transformed into, let us say, a hammer is also a production. So originally the iron ore may not be that useful. Crude oil, if it is there, crude oil is there. It's not here, we cannot see that. But I have seen that when I was working in the Gulf region. Crude oil, what is the use of that? We cannot actually use for anything other than to burn items. If at all bad purposes only it can be used. Just crude oil is not useful and completely useless. And it will be so thick and horrible actually to touch. But once you refine that crude oil, lots of useful things will come out of that. Particularly related to the fuels that we use, the petrol comes out of that, the diesel comes out of that. Even the candles that we are using, the wax comes out of that process. The bitumen, what is called tar popularly, the roads on which we are all going daily, tar roads, where from the tar comes? That comes from the crude oil only as a byproduct. So many products will come out of that. The list is endless. There is a jet fuel which comes out of that. So many of them will come from kerosene also, part of it. Like this, many products will come out of that. So once just crude oil is there below the ground somewhere or below the sea somewhere, what is the use of that crude oil to the human beings? It may be there just like that. But when we take it out, when we find it, when we dig it out, when we extract it, when we refine it, when we transport it, when we use it, how many places it is changing? Almost 80% of the petroleum that India uses is imported. So petroleum, when I say, it is crude oil. So 80% of our crude oil comes from outside India. Where from also, you don't know. You cannot understand that. It is not possible to distinguish. This is Saudi Arabia petrol, this is Dubai petrol, or this is Russia petrol, or this is Iran petrol. How can we do that? That much also is not possible. But definitely they have come from different places. We import crude oil from multiple countries. So many countries we import crude oil from. Where that crude oil originally started, what was the journey of that, how many phases it has crossed, and finally you are just casually going to a petrol pump and asking him to fill your tank, or asking him to fill 100 rupees petrol, 2 liter petrol, like that. Very easy, just like that. But have you ever thought this petrol what we are using as a fuel for our vehicle, where the journey would have started of this petrol? It is a thousands of kilometers journey, not a small journey. Long place it would have been actually extracted from. We don't know that. But the production process has created that place utility. It has taken the resources from a place where they have less use to a place where they are of greater use. And how this place utility can be obtained? Naturally from extraction from the earth, as we are talking about coal, minerals, gold, or crude oil, etc. That is extraction from the earth. That also creates place utility because they are coming below the ground to above the ground. That is place utility. Then transferring the goods from where they give little or no satisfaction to the place where the utility is more. So transferring them. Once again, here I would not generally think about satisfaction. Satisfaction is only one word there, it is used. More in economics, satisfaction cannot be considered from human wants and needs point of view. It has to be considered from, once again, exchange value point of view. Let us say, just for understanding purposes, because the word apples in Kashmir is used anyway here as an example. Let us say apples are there in Kashmir. Okay, yes, fantastic apples will be there in Kashmir. The entire apples in the Kashmir, can Kashmiris eat? Probably no. Probably if they eat throughout the year also, all the apples what they have in front of them, they will be still left with more apples. What is the use of them? Maybe you have to just throw them out. So if you consider that way, what is better thing for them? To send it to others. Not only that, even whoever the cultivator, the agriculturist, or you can say the farmer who is, let us say, cultivating wheat somewhere in Punjab. One farmer has 10 acres of land and he has cultivated few hundreds of kgs of wheat. Can he eat all of that throughout the year? Not possible. He has to sell it to somebody. Means he has to transfer the goods from that place to some other place. That wheat itself is of less use for him. It is definitely of much use for others. So what he has to do? He has to transfer those goods to some other place. Like that also, that creates place utility. So one place utility is created by extracting from the earth. Another type of place utility is created by transferring the goods from the places where they give lesser satisfaction to the places where they give more satisfaction is another point. Once again, I want to just stress on this point, satisfaction. Don't go too much with that. Satisfaction here means real use of it. Real use of it is more for others than them himself, let us say. For that purpose, he uses the exchange of commodities. He sells that wheat and gets money for it, and that money he uses for his own uses. So the same farmer uses let us say Mysore sandal soap, which goes from Karnataka. So that also created place utility. So like that, the production process creates place utility by extracting from the earth and by transferring the goods from one place to another place, let us call it. One place to another place. That is the best thing. Don't think about satisfaction and all. That is generally deviating word. So transferring from one place to another place, yes, that's what place utility is all about. And extracting goods from nature also is also creating place utility, like that. But how this is possible, how the place utility is possible? Because of transport systems, fantastic transport system throughout the world. We have rail transport, road transport, air transport, sea transport, water transport, just within the country also, like that. Many countries have them. So different types of transport network and transport workers put together do this job of transferring the goods from one place to another place. And once again, I'm just giving you a practical word that is used for it. This is what is called logistics. Simple. That is logistics. That is what is creating place utility. That's a huge area. Actual manufacturing is one process. That is also a huge area, but that is engineering area. Logistics is also a huge area, taking goods from one place to another place, but all of them are practically engineering things. Really, who does that is not us. Some technical people will do that. But what we are trying to understand is the production process creates utility. It adds some utility by transforming the natural resources into some goods or services. And what kinds of utility it is creating? First one is farm utility, second one is place utility. And then the third one it creates is, we can call that as utility of time. That is called time utility. Not always, but sometimes yes, it will create a time utility also. Why is that? Because of this production process, we can store the items and use them when we require them. So most of the goods that we use, except for very perishable goods, normally those all can be consumed later also. Of course, they come with expiry date, but let us say the rice that is manufactured or cultivated today, it has to be consumed today. It has to be eaten by people tomorrow. Not necessarily. It can be stored and it can be used later also. Like this, the production process creates a utility of time. There is no urgency for the human being now to eat it whatever he has hunted. Earlier, let us say the cave men, when they went for hunting, whatever they hunted, they had to eat now immediately, because first of all, they hunted when they were very hungry, and they had to complete that process of eating immediately, because eating was the only important process for them. But once they started understanding how to store that, then that started creating time utility. So place utility is created by transportation. Farm utility is created by the production process itself, the technology, we can say. Technology means don't think of big things also. Small things are also technology. And a normal fireplace is also technology. A normal tandoor is also technology. Tandoor is the technology which is used for converting the wheat into, let us say, chapati or a roti. So that is also technology. So technology does not necessarily mean it is high technology and all. The human civilization has learned so many techniques how to convert the natural resources into the goods which are useful for satisfying their wants. So they create farm utility, place utility, and time utility also, wherein they can postpone the consumption. And not only that, some of them usually are stored for longer periods of time also. Like for example, we do this pickles and all. That is also part of creating utility of time. Some fruits can be canned so that they can be used in off season. That is utility of time. But I think in this era of refrigerating technologies we are going through, that is useless to discuss about utility of time. Practically that is almost negated. So many things that we use, eat, We are also not sure whether they are fresh or not, whether they are frozen for how many months and how many days also in the refrigerators, we don't know. So utility of time is created by storage. Okay. Utility of form is created by production process itself. So this is the actual production process. Form utility itself is created by the production process, or let us say the core process, or say manufacturing, let us call it. That is manufacture. So that is the first thing. Form utility is created by manufacture. Place utility is created by the logistics management, and time utility is created by storage. Time utility is created by storage. That's it. These are the types of utilities that production process creates on a broader basis. And we can also call something as personal utility, where the personal skills of the people are also engaged and improved over a period of time because of the production process. Like many people will be working in this process of production, and each of them will have to apply their own skill. So we can call that as personal utility. But this is what it adds to whom? To the person who is working. But understand this point also. When a person is learning a skill or something new, it is not going to stop there. It is going to be passed on to the next generations. That is the nature of human beings. Of course, that is the nature of many animals also. But human beings have this better ability of communicating with others, wherein the skills that they have acquired will be automatically passed on to the next generation. Whatever we are using the technology today, we are using mobile phones. Directly mobile phones were not there invented. Long back, a basic telephone was invented. Then that was passed on to next generations. That was passed on to next generations. People understand from the history of technology how these inventions were made, and they improve upon that. And they create better and better products. They improve their skills generation after generation. That is why always the thumb rule is next generation is always better than the previous generation. This is what sometimes people, especially the ones who are elderly, will never understand. They will always think, oh, we were great, marozillo, oh, hamara din mein aisa rehta tha. Like this they think. Always they think like that. This is nature. And when they were young, their parents also would have thought like that. When they were young, those parents also would have thought like that. Always, it is a common nature that one generation thinks that the next generation is useless. We have worked so hard. Now, a lot of times we see from even some of my friends who are chartered accountants that they always tell, oh, we used to really work hard to pass these exams. Nowadays, people are just like that passing. I don't accept their argument. I would say in a different way. I would ask them only one question. When you were writing exams, when we were writing exams, did we not hear the same thing from our seniors, from our principals, from our, say, 10, 15 years senior chartered accountants? They also used to tell the same thing to us. Prior to that, somebody else also would have told the same thing to them. But that is all wrong. That is nonsensical. Why? Because basically the better skills of one generation will be passed on to the next generation. And on a broader level, we are not talking about person to person, one family only, we are not talking. Broaderly, if you look at the society and if you look at the overall world also as a unit, the skills of the people of next generation will always be better than the skills of the people of last generation or previous generation. Only thing is, they may not be the same skills. For example, my guru used to never use calculator. He always used to calculate everything, because he can do these multiplications, additions, subtractions without using calculator. That was requirement for them. Those days calculator was not allowed in the exams. When we started writing exams, calculator was already allowed. So why should we do that? We lost that skill of calculating without calculator. Maybe next generation will not even know how to use calculator. Maybe they will directly do it on computer. So it depends upon the situation, which skill is required, which skill is not required. If I ask a question, how many of you remember how many phone numbers? I am sure the answer will be mostly silence. I don't remember many phone numbers except like 3, 4 important numbers, my family and all. I don't remember any number. But I am the same person when I was having, let us say, no mobile phone during college days. I used to remember definitely more landline numbers. But now that requirement is gone. People don't need that skill of memorizing the telephone numbers because there is some machine which is doing for them. Good or bad is debatable. But along with that, people develop new skills because their skills now are not required on the unnecessary aspects of earlier generation. They will focus their skills on something else. But ultimately, if you look at a broader basis, generation to generations, these skills will always get transferred and they become better and better. So that is the reality of the society, which is actually different from what many people perceive. So that is the personal utility the production process generates. Imagine like thousands of years ago, we don't know how many years also, first person who has used fire to cook their raw meat, what they hunted, what excitement he would have got, and what excitement the other people would have got. And you would have seen this Jungle Book movie. All the animals think that fire is the biggest weapon of human beings, naturally, because they didn't have that weapon. Human beings know something called fire. They can create fire. Enough. That was the biggest invention. And that passed on from generation to generation. Now daily you don't start waking up and think about how to have today's fire. No, we don't need that. We know how to have fire just like that. Within a click of a lighter, we can have it. One matchbox stick, we can have it. So that much easy it has become. But when it started, it was very complicated process. Naturally, it passed from generations to generations, and it has improved the skill of the people also to manufacture. And that is the reason when we look at the technology also, the production processes also, the features also. If you take mobile phones as an example, how they are improving, how drastically there is a change in the way mobile phones performed, say 5-10 years back and now, how this all happened, because that is improving the personal skill of the people. The scientists are also improving by observing the existing technologies and always trying to innovate new technologies. So that is a very important advantage of this process of production. It adds to the personal skills, and I would say not only to the personal skills, when it is adding to the personal skills, automatically it is adding to the total society. If one person is knowing something, it will not die with him. Either it will be passed on to his own generations or to the entire society, irrespective of whether it is free or costly. That doesn't matter. Ultimately, the knowledge of the people which they have earned through this production process will be of great help to the society also. That also has to be understood. These are the utilities that the production process creates. Once again, one is form utility, second one is time utility or place utility, third one is time utility, fourth one is personal utility. That's it. These are the four types of utilities broadly that production process creates. Okay. So there is an example given here. You can go through that. There is nothing special about it. It is self-explanatory. With all the examples I have already taken, it should be easy for you to understand how production process creates different types of utilities. But the next point also we already discussed. We should not think that production means only physical input to physical output. We should not think like that. Not necessarily that production means conversion of physical inputs into physical output. We should also understand services are also production. Same thing. So there is no necessity that the output has to be tangible. Even intangible inputs and intangible outputs also can be called as production. But as we already discussed also, production does not include work within a household by anyone out of love and affection, voluntary services, and goods produced for self-consumption. No, these are not what is production. We can have a list of all this. Without love and affection also, somebody can make rotis at home. That does not make them production. So don't fall in that level. In the point of love and affection means it is just for own group of people. Voluntary services, if they are done, that cannot be called as production. Charity cannot be called as production. If somebody manufactures for self-consumption, that is not production. Let us say some artist will paint a beautiful painting and he keeps it at his home. That is not production. From economics purpose, that is not production. If another artist does this same, creates another painting and sells it or shows it in art gallery for a price, he earns some money out of that. There is an economic activity involved with that painting. Then only we can say it is production. And as I already told, most important aspect in identifying whether it is a production for economics purposes or not is exchange. Use is not only the important point, exchange is the important point, right? That is what production is all about. And the money that is used or expenses incurred in the process of production, that's what we call as cost of production. We will come to that definitely in detail in the unit 2. So we'll not have to discuss it now because no point of discussing them at this point. When we reach to that level, we will understand them. Now, each of them will be only words for us. We cannot understand the meaning of them now. But in general, once again, I would like to draw the attention. When we use the word production, we are not talking about money. We are talking about quantities. And when we talk about cost of production, we are talking about money expenses. What is cost is nothing but the transforming of resources into finished products. That's what is called as cost of production. So various aspects related to cost and revenue will be discussed in the following units. We will definitely discuss them later. As far as this unit is concerned, we will focus mostly on only the theory of production, and before that we have to understand what are the factors of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. That is the beginning of the unit 1 of chapter 3. In the next session, we will discuss about what are the factors of production and what are the characteristics of different factors of production. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Thank you very much.